because I was confused and I was stressed out. I had no information at all. And when something like this happens, people don't always act correctly. They don't always act rationally. And I used very poor judgment. And I'm sorry for that, but I did not have anything to do with the murder of my husband.
In 1991, Pamela Smart went on trial for the murder of her husband. It was a case that caught the nation's attention.
Smart was a 22-year-old media coordinator at a high school in New Hampshire who had an affair with a 15-year-old student. That student then shot and killed her husband. Throughout the trial and until very recently, Smart had maintained her innocence. But for the first time, Pamela Smart has accepted some responsibility for the death of her husband, Greg Smart.
Pamela says she had a breakthrough because of a prison writing group saying that deflecting blame was a coping mechanism.
At her trial in 1991, the jury had a shorter trip to the same conclusion. Our John Impemba was there when she learned her fate.
The verdict spells a giant relief for the family and friends of Gregory Smart, the victim in one of the most publicized trials ever in New Hampshire. It is a trial filled with stories of sex and seduction and adultery, all by a pretty high school instructor who now stands convicted of manipulating her teenage lover to kill her own husband. As the verdict was read, Pamela Smart stood silent and still.
On case number 90S1370, which charges a defendant with the crime of conspiracy to commit murder, how say you, is the defendant guilty or not guilty of the offense charged?
Guilty.
Then the judge asked each juror separately.
Juror number 7. Guilty. Juror number 8.
Finally, Judge Douglas Gray rendered a chilling sentence.
I am required and do hereby sentence you to the New Hampshire State Prison for Women for the remainder of your life without the possibility of parole.
First, there were tears mixed with faint smiles among Greg Smart's family as the pain of this long trial turned into a long, emotional sigh of relief. For the family of Pamela Smart, a far different story. As they walked from court, you could see faces filled with shock and disbelief.
I think justice was done. There was no question in our minds that the evidence was there, that the defendant had committed the crimes, and I'm just very gratified that the jury was able to see the evidence and render a proper verdict.
Thank God. Thank God.
And for Greg Smart's mother and father, weeks and months of anxiety are now over.
Mrs. Smart, you're smiling for the first time in 2 weeks.
I know, it feels great.
It does.
Great.
It feels wonderful.
But after leaving court, there was one more important stop before they went home.
Just to go and tell Greg what's happened.
What's happened.
Okay?
Now he can rest in peace.
We're going to tell him that, by God, she did do it.
She got what she deserved.
Pamela Smart still faces charges in another county that she planned yet another murder, this time of one of the state's star witnesses in this case. But the prosecutor says he's not sure he'll pursue that matter. He says, after all, you can't get much more than life in prison without parole. Among the crowd of curious were also friends of Pamela Smart's teenage lover, Bill Flynn, the admitted killer of Greg Smart. Those friends know all too well about Pam Smart's ability to control others.
I thank God the jurors came back with the verdict that they did. There's nothing that's going to bring Greg's life back, but at least she's going to pay some retribution for the damage that she's caused.
But no one could be as glad as the family of Gregory Smart, who left the court surrounded by a sea of reporters and photographers who have told this story to the entire nation.
John Impemba reporting in 1991. Now, Smart is serving time in New York. She has earned 2 master's degrees in the meantime and tutored fellow inmates. She's also an ordained minister.